Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you once trusted with your deepest truths? Have you ever loved someone sincerely, only to discover they turned your vulnerabilities into weapons? In today's world, where judgment spreads faster than compassion and appearances matter more than authenticity, it's easy to question whether it's even safe to love deeply anymore. We live in a time where people collect secrets, not to guard them, but to use them. They smile to your face and twist your honesty behind your back. In such a world, how does one live with love without being destroyed by it? The answer lies in a different kind of love. A love that is wise. A love that discerns. Jesus taught us that we are called to love everyone, but he never told us to expose our hearts to everyone. He hugged the broken, healed the hurting, welcomed the outcast. But he also withdrew from crowds, stayed silent before his accusers, and chose his inner circle with care. That's the lesson. You can carry love in your heart without handing your peace to those who haven't earned your trust. Not everyone who smiles deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone who listens deserves access to your soul. You must learn to love like a river, flowing freely, but with strong banks to protect your depth. This is not about building walls. It's about building wisdom. Loving wisely means you show kindness, even to those who misunderstand you. But you no longer give them the power to destroy your peace. You stop explaining yourself to those who have already made up their minds. You walk in love, but you also walk in strength. And in doing so, you reclaim your energy from the people who only come to drain it. That's how Jesus walked, fully open to love, but never careless with his purpose. Now, in the midst of this chaos, there's another war we fight, a silent war within, a battle between the purity we're called to and the pollution that surrounds us daily. Gossip, deception, bitterness, they don't always arrive like enemies. They often slip into our lives as casual conversations, late-night scrolls, or unresolved wounds. And little by little, they cloud our clarity. They make us suspicious, reactive, impatient. But Jesus calls us to live with purity, not as a burden, but as a strength. Purity is not perfection, it's peace. It's a clarity of heart that allows you to sleep at night, knowing you didn't betray your values for temporary validation. It's the honesty of a life lived without secret agendas. When your heart is pure, your joy is protected. When your thoughts are clean, your direction becomes clear. You're no longer tossed by the chaos of every opinion or distracted by every voice. You walk in truth, and truth becomes your anchor. Jesus never mirrored the corruption of the world. He moved through it untouched, not by isolating himself, but by remaining centered in the truth. When people lied about him, he didn't retaliate. When people tried to provoke him, he remained grounded. That's what purity looks like in action. Not weakness, but power under control. When you choose to keep your heart clean, when you choose to think higher and speak life, even in darkness, you become unshakable. And that frustrates every force that once controlled you. Because here's what happens when you begin to love wisely and live purely. The enemies of your soul lose their grip. The people who once knew how to push your buttons realize the buttons are gone. The guilt they tried to trap you with no longer fits. The words they once used to wound now fall powerless to the ground. And in their confusion, you rise not because you fought harder, but because you stood firmer. This is where the third truth enters, divine justice. We live in a world obsessed with instant results and public vindication. We want people to see we were right. We want those who hurt us to be exposed. But Jesus teaches us that true justice doesn't always arrive with noise. It arrives with timing. He never chased down his accusers. He never screamed his innocence from rooftops. He trusted that truth in time would speak for itself, and that God would make all things right when the time was right. You may not see it yet, but the delays in your life are not denials. They are divine setups. There are people God is quietly removing from your path. There are battles He's fighting behind the scenes. And while you worry about the when, He is working on the how. His justice is not always swift, but it is always precise. The people who tried to hold you back will soon find they no longer have access to you. The lies spoken against you will lose their voice, and you will look around and realize that the very thing that was meant to break you has become the testimony that builds you. So don't waste your time chasing revenge or proving yourself to those who never cared to understand you. Walk with wisdom. Stay pure. Trust divine justice. The world may not clap for your growth, but heaven celebrates every step. And the moment you begin to live this way, you walk lighter. You sleep deeper. You love stronger. You start to move not with fear, but with fire. Because you know something they don't know, that God is still writing your story, and no enemy can touch the chapters He's yet to unfold. There comes a moment in every journey where you start to feel the weight of old sorrows begin to lift. Not because the circumstances have changed overnight, but because something in you has shifted. It's subtle, like the way morning light slips quietly through your curtains. You breathe deeper, you react slower, and without realizing it, the pain that once defined your days begins to feel like a distant echo. That's not just time healing your wounds, that's grace at work. That's divine restoration. Jesus never promised that we would avoid sorrow, but He did promise we wouldn't carry it alone. He notices the heaviness in your shoulders, the grief behind your smiles, the tears that never fall but sit behind your eyes. And gently, with patience, He begins to wash it all away, not with force, but with presence. You start to feel again. You start to hope again. And one day, you catch yourself smiling for no reason, and it stuns you. When did I start to feel okay again? That's what divine love does. It reaches the places no human can touch. It frees you from invisible chains you forgot you were wearing. And when you live from that place of love, real love, you stop walking like a victim. You stop dragging your past into every room you enter. You release the old labels, the regrets, the failures, the guilt. They no longer stick. You're not meant to live hunched over with shame. You were made to walk upright with purpose. Jesus sees you not through the lens of what you've done, but through the power of who you're becoming. And when He redeems a person, He doesn't just clean up the outside. He transforms the inside. Suddenly, your heart beats differently. You don't love the same. You don't fear the same. You live lighter because love has taken the weight off your soul. But life doesn't stop throwing storms your way. Conflict still comes. Unexpected losses still knock at the door. Moments arise that threaten to steal your joy again. But this time, it's different. This time, you've tasted something stronger. And so, when conflict approaches, you don't crumble. You take refuge in presence. In His embrace. Jesus never told us to run from hardship. He invited us to rest in the storm. He never promised a life without pressure, but He gave us peace that passes understanding. That's the difference. The people around you will see it. They'll wonder why you're so calm while everything seems to fall apart. They'll notice the joy in your eyes, even when you should be broken. What they don't realize is that you're not powered by willpower. You're powered by peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on bank accounts, apologies, or perfect health. A supernatural peace that sits with you in the hospital room, in the empty house, in the quiet nights where tears used to fall. And with that peace comes protection. Not always the kind that prevents trouble, but the kind that surrounds you when trouble arrives. It's easy to forget in this world of fear that we are covered by something more powerful than evil, divine protection. Jesus told His followers not to be afraid because we are never alone. And that still holds true. Whether you're walking into an interview, sitting at a funeral, or standing in a courtroom, you are not standing there by yourself. You are shielded, watched over, surrounded. Angels may not be visible to your eyes, but they are present nonetheless. And the Spirit that lives within you is not timid or weak. It is bold, courageous, holy. Every time you begin to believe you are vulnerable or forgotten, remember this. You are more covered than you know. The forces trying to stop you have already failed. You've just yet to see it with your physical eyes. And soon you will, because Jesus doesn't abandon His own. He equips them. He empowers them. He walks with them until they rise. And in that rising, you begin to believe again. not in vague possibilities or fairy tale endings, but in the solid, unshakable reality of divine love. A love more real than anything you can touch. A love that stays when others leave. A love that rebuilds what life has broken. And if you dare to believe it, if you dare to let it transform you from the inside out, then there is no limit to what God can do through you. So, yes, storms will come. Yes, people will disappoint. Yes, grief will try to find its way back in. But now you know the truth. You are not the same person who used to break under pressure. You are someone who has been through fire and came out with light. Someone who walks in peace, lives with protection, and radiates love, not because life is perfect, but because your source is. So breathe deep, lift your head, and keep walking boldly, bravely, and beautifully. Because the story is still being written, and the author is good.